if you're struggling to vision with your spouse, to just see how we do it. Pull out some random cards. We're not pre-selecting these, and talk through them as if we normally do. Man, we're starting intense.
That is an intense one.
That's funny. I haven't heard that story.
That's why I'm an underdog. We're Nick and Hannah True, and we're here to help you do more with your money. Welcome to Craft Your Money Story, a Mapped Out Money podcast. All right, I'm going to start this episode with the disclaimer that I think all of our episodes need after editing a few. Margot might snore in the background, and we try to start it out with her not snoring, but she just snores all the time.
We even got an email the other day from Chris. If you're listening, Chris, you know who you are. He was basically walking in the park, and he kept hearing this low growling noise as he was walking his dog, and he kept freaking out, thinking and so he turned his audio off to try and see, is there something following us here? And then the growling would stop, and then he would start the podcast again, and then it would start again, and he did that 3 or 4 times before he realized it was just Margot snoring in the background.
We're so used to her snoring that it doesn't even
we
register.
We don't even notice it.
Yeah,
it's just part of it.
So if you hear anything weird like that, I don't know if the microphones will pick that up, but anyways, Margot snores, and she's down on the floor all wrapped up, so she's part of the studio ambiance.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so today's episode is going to be fun because you ordered these conversation decks for us from Best Self Company.
Best Self, yeah. And they have a couple of different decks. They have deeper deck. They have a icebreaker deck. Mm-hmm. They have a couples deck. They have a date night deck. They have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And we have basically all of them. And I have one in the truck. I keep one in the office. I keep one near the kitchen table.
And so we'll just randomly pull them out and go through these questions together.
Yeah.
And we think that that's one of those simple things that you can do to just foster conversation and unity with you and your spouse, especially if you find yourself sitting there and, I don't know, conversations lagging.
Yeah.
It's just like those nerdy kids. You remember the trope on sitcoms with the kids that had the conversation decks? I think they did that on Gilmore Girls,
conversation
didn't they?
Starters, whatever.
Paris, doesn't she do that on one of her dates?
Yes.
Paris, what are these cards that fell out of your jacket?
Just some reference points, really. Subjects to bring up in case the conversation lags.
Well, can I suggest that you leave this one about the Spanish Inquisition out?
The thing is as much as you and I like each other, and we like each other a lot, sometimes it's just easy to get into the same rhythms of
totally
rehashing the same stuff. Mm-hmm. How was your day? Oh, I did this. Oh, how was your day? Oh, I did that. You just kind of get into the same rhythms and patterns. And something like this is just a helpful tool to just break it up and introduce something a little new. And I think that some spouses are going to be resistant to this kind of a thing because they'll see it, like you said, as lame or.
And some of the questions we'll pull them out and be like, that's not very good. We'll
we'll
either
just toss
skip it
whatever.
or give a stupid answer and then move on or whatever. So not all of them lead to great deep conversations, but some of them do.
Especially if we're driving on a road trip or something, I'll pull these out in the truck or like I said, over dinner. It's more fun to do that than just turning on the TV during dinner, that kind of a thing. And for us, we'll notice that if, 1, 2, 3, 4 cards in, that actually reminds us of some other thing. And then we actually start talking about that for a while. And then we kind of are done with the cards at that point. And so it's not always about just getting through them as much as it is about spurring on interesting topics that we might not have otherwise discussed.
Totally. So with all that being said.
Yeah, we basically just thought it would be fun for us to just pull out some random cards. We're not pre-selecting these and just read them and talk through them as if we normally do over dinner or in the car, whatever. And maybe this gives you some inspiration to, if you're struggling to vision with your spouse, to just see how we do it.
Ooh, I will also say this is not a Christian company. And so there have been a few of these cards that we've just straight up thrown out.
Totally.
Okay. Are you going to draw first? Or
I'm going to draw first.
Okay.
All right. In what ways do you feel underappreciated by me or others?
Oh.
Man, we're starting intense.
That is an intense one. Okay. Well, this is maybe related, but maybe not the exact question.
Okay.
I have told you this before, but I feel like the story of my life is that I come in as the underdog and that people are shocked when I do something good.
People do believe you to be an underdog.
So I was telling Nick, this happened to me in high school. We had an award ceremony in high school, and this teacher who, liked me. I don't think she had any reason to not like me. But she basically was like, I never realized how smart you were, that you were getting all of this.
I thought you were such a Dumbo.
Yeah, like she was just really shocked by whatever I'd gotten, which, whatever. And then when we were in college, we were both in like this same smaller like program within the larger college. And my advisor or whatever in that program, when I was doing like my last meeting with
So
her
bad.
before graduating, she was like, how does it feel to have come in as an underdog and then, performed so well or whatever in this program? And I was like, well, I don't know, but I feel insulted right now. So
it's like the same kind of thing if you tell somebody they look so good they've lost weight, or
yeah,
it's like the
you
implication.
look so good you've lost a ton of weight or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, thanks, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
You were really a whale before, but now
You look great.
you're
now.
like a baby whale.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, so just one of the, I don't know. Did I answer the question?
Yeah,
at
you
all?
did. Yeah, that you can feel underappreciated. People recognizing some of the skills or talents that you have.
Well,
that's fair.
And I also, I don't
so-
I don't have any stage worthy skills. I've always said that too. Like when I met you, Nick was very much like, I play music and I lead the worship band and I sing and I do all these things. And I was like, ooh, yeah. I don't know. I don't have any talents.
Well, that's not true at all. You just don't have like the talents. The talents that people would put into a quote talent show. You don't typically do those things.
Yes.
But that doesn't that doesn't mean you don't have talents.
Sure. We'll go
Oh
with
my
that.
gosh. This is how our conversations typically
Go
go.
with that theory.
This is so
Okay.
this is so raw. This is so honest.
I don't know if this story is going to be funny, but I'm going to tell it anyways.
Tell it.
So that same program that we were in, they had like this retreat thing that you went on as like, because you came in as a class
It was
of
an
like
orientation
30.
week. It's part of the orientation process.
Yeah. And your little cohort like worked through, the 4
program
years of
together,
college together, whatever. And so they did this thing called a Chautauqua, which
It's basically just a talent show.
yes, but they're like, it's not a talent show, but it definitely is. And so
There's also like all these like subtle status games being played where you're kind of like, you're trying to, you're coming in, you're meeting all these people for the first time and they're all like competitive. And so there's this undertone, or at least
so I'm
there
about
was
to
with us.
explain why that counselor thought I
you
was an
an
underdog. Okay. So my roommate, Kristen, thankfully was like very quiet, soft-spoken, all the things. Neither one of us liked the spotlight, but Kristen disliked it like even more than me. And so we get there for this retreat and everybody's talking about what they're, I thought everybody would just show up and do something goofy. And we came in and it was like, people had been planning their thing
That's what I'm
for
saying.
like
They're
months and months.
They're
And I was
here to
like,
like show
what
out.
is this? Yeah. So
Yeah.
me and Kristen, thankfully, were both like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what's happening right now and I have nothing to do. And so I was like, Kristen, don't worry. We've got this. Like we will get up there and I will demonstrate how to put on this certain type of makeup on you. And all you have to do is sit there. You don't even have to say anything.
Look at you.
Like,
You're so
I'll
kind.
do it and, whatever. And so we did and it was horrible. And I still have nightmares about it, but we survived it together.
I think that actually speaks to an underlying talent that you have, which is your thoughtfulness for others. And I'm not just like saying that to be sappy on the podcast, like legit. I think to me, the takeaway is you were able to put yourself in Kristen's shoes and recognize that even though you're feeling super like awkward and upset or like, not upset, but embarrassed or nervous about being in front of everybody and like being on the stage is not your thing normally. You recognize that Kristen's was like 20x yours.
Does
and
anybody else have that
you were
experience? Like
you
when
were
you're
able to
around-
like, I don't know, just kind of put the team on your back a little bit for Kristen there. And I think
Well,
that's really kind of you.
That just happened. Like if I'm angry about something, but I'm around somebody who's like more angry about it, then all of a sudden like
You'll
I
be
can like
calm
kind of
about it.
laugh about it.
Yeah.
And then
Like if Kristen is like way more nervous than you are, then
Yeah.
you're not as nervous.
then I'm like,
That makes
okay,
sense.
I'm not as nervous. I don't know. Is anybody else like that?
I think a lot of people
I
are like
remember
that.
being that way, like running, like doing cross country when people would like really hate a workout and be whining about it, that would make me feel like better during the workout.
You do that
like,
with me. If I'm whining about a workout, or if I'm like really having a hard time in a workout, you get like way more dialed in.
I think that's like, I don't know. That makes me feel like I'm like feeding on other people's weaknesses.
No, that's not what it is. I don't think so.
Anyways, all
right. All right, you read a card.
Okay. How do you like to be comforted when you feel down? Where are you putting these after we read them?
I just put it back in there.
Okay.
The odds of us drawing the same one are pretty low. How do I like to be comforted? That implies by somebody else, like by you. How do I like to be comforted when I feel down? Right?
As opposed to like, how do you comfort yourself?
Yeah, like how do you cope or something like that. This is like an obvious probably answer, but I would say being empathetic to whether I'm in the mood to like talk about it or whether I'm in the mood to kind of just do something else to decompress about it rather than like pestering one way or another. Right. And I think that early on in our marriage, maybe we weren't as good about this. I think we're much better about it today than recognizing when one of us is like wants to talk about what they're feeling down about versus when we just need to like be around, you know what I mean? And so like sometimes if I'm feeling really down, I need to talk through whatever it is so that I can work my way through it. And I need you to listen and like engage and ask questions. But sometimes I'm feeling down and I just need you to be the one to kind of just move on. You know what I mean? And like be like, all right, well, I know you're feeling down, but
just like keep us
we
pushing forward.
We gotta go work out anyways. Like I know you're feeling down, but we need to record this podcast anyways. I know you're feeling down, but we need like and so I think I don't do well if I feel like we're wallowing because I don't like to feel like my downness is holding us back or keeping me from making progress in something. And so while it might feel fun in the moment to like cope with, you know, eating my weight in cheese dip and watching Netflix or something, I ultimately know like that's not what I want to do long term. And so ideally how I want to be comforted is either I want to talk through it or I want you to just be like, all right, hey, we don't have to talk, but let's just keep kind of moving.
Yeah, I think we've both gotten better at like being able to depersonalize like how the other one is acting like when it's not personal.
Yeah, I think
you know, I think like especially early on you can feel like everything's personal all the time.
Totally.
And so if you're being quiet, it's because you're like upset with me or you're mad at me or you're, you know, and then just recognizing like, oh, you're quiet right now, but it's not because you're upset with me. And
I think it's also a give and take. So I think that for us, there are times where I'd be quiet because I definitely, if I'm down, that's definitely I'm quiet.
Yeah, like you're never quiet.
And you know that. And you'll be like, you'll ask me and you'll just clarify, hey, are you mad at me?
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
Or are you just being quiet for
I'm
some
just
other
down.
reason? Yeah.
And sometimes I'll be like, oh, everything's fine. And you're like, well, you're being quiet and that's not normal. So it doesn't mean you're mad, but it's not normal.
Yeah.
And that used to like kind of annoy me because I'm like, I could be quiet.
And I'm like, no, you really can't. Because I tend to be pretty quiet. I mean, I talk to you a lot, but overall, I'm pretty quiet. But Nick's a conversation starter.
Totally. Yeah. And so if I'm quiet, I'm typically contemplative. And it could be because I'm down. It could just be because I have a lot on my mind.
Yeah, and you're like focused on
something. I'm focused on something. Could be because I'm stressed. But I think early on in our marriage, if you asked me, hey, are you mad? Are you mad at me? Or are you upset with me or something like that? I would get annoyed.
Or like defensive.
Yeah. Which is dumb. Rather than just these days, I think we do a good job or a better job at least of saying, no, it has nothing to do with you. I'm feeling down. And then I guess what I'm looking for is you to be able to recognize, does it seem like he wants to talk through this or does it seem like he needs to finish processing and then we'll talk through it later?
Yeah. And again, I mean, a lot of times that just comes down to asking it too.
It does. Totally.
Yeah. And so much of all of this stuff, it comes down to like self-awareness. And so like knowing, am I in a mood where I need to talk through this or am I in a mood where if we're talking about it, it's just going to like annoy me more or, you know, whatever. And then communication. So like having open communication with each other where you can ask those types of questions and the other person can respond in a non-defensive way or, and you cannot get offended by things.
Yeah.
So, and that's just all, I mean, that just grows
Takes time.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
and honestly, it takes doing stuff like this. Like,
Totally.
Like asking those kind of questions helps us then, because right now we're not in like an upset or down in way. Trying to have a conversation of like, how do you want me to comfort you when you need comforting? Not a good time to ask that question.
Yeah.
I'm going to read one.
Okay.
What are the top 5 qualities you admire about me?
Oh, okay.
Let's do 5's a lot. Let's just do 3.
Let's do 3. Okay. I think one of the qualities that has always stuck out to me is you have always pursued your relationship with God like first. You really have. And you've helped me grow a lot in that area. And related to that is you're such an encourager. And so you have a lot of confidence. But what I love most about you with that is that you share it with other people and you use it to give other people confidence in themselves. So I don't know, I guess that's kind of 3 because I said like, what did I say?
My relationship
Encouraging
with God.
and then confidence.
Confidence, encouragement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 3. That's very kind.
Are confidence
Thank you.
and encouragement the same thing?
No, you said I'm confident, and then
I linked them together.
I use that to encourage others.
Yeah.
That's good.
You're very good at that.
I would say there's a number of things, but let's say the top 3 or the top 3 that come to mind at the moment. One would be back to what I said earlier about you and Kristen, is I've admired this about you since day one, which is like you are one of the most empathetic people. And it doesn't always mean that you are nice, meaning like you will show tough love when that's necessary. Like I think a lot of times people think empathy as just being a super nice person. But I mean empathy in the true sense of you just have a really intuitive sense of understanding how other people might be feeling in a situation and then helping them or serving them or reacting in that way. You're just incredibly thoughtful about that in ways that I think most people are just not. And I think a lot of people don't even know. I would go so far to say that a lot of people, if they haven't met somebody like you, they don't even know that somebody can be that empathetic. I certainly didn't.
Well, that's very nice. I think the downside of that is, like biblically speaking, like the fear of man. Because I think
it can become you can use your empathy to become a people pleaser.
Yeah.
Where you're constantly worrying about how they're going to react, and then you're only sort of taking actions based on that.
Yeah.
But I mean, every strength has a weakness. So I think that's a strength that I admire about you, and it certainly made me be more thoughtful and empathetic. You've taught me that. The second thing that I really admire about you that comes to mind is your grit, maybe is the right word. Just going back to the workout thing. I tend to be a sort of burst of speed, like the rabbit in the hair, or rabbit in the hair. That's the same thing. Turtle in the hair.
Well, you come out of the gate hot.
I do.
Yeah.
And so like in a workout situation, but this isn't just with working out. This applies to like all sorts of things in our life. I tend to sort of like come out with like excitement. I'm running. Like if we take off, there have been so many times where we're running a 5K or a half marathon or something like at like a real race with people around us and stuff. And I get like sucked into the group and the gun fires and we go and I'm like, woo. And I'm like running and you're like, hey dude, slow down. We are not going to sustain this pace. You have this sort of grit and tenacity that allows you to like lock in and then just be like steady Eddie. And I really admire that about you because it's like you simultaneously know what your capacity is in certain things, but then you're able to just hold that capacity for a really, really, really long time. And that's in distance running, but it's also in like the way you did physical therapy school, or the way that we will work on Mapped Out Money, or the way that we will do renovation projects and you'll paint every room in the house like just steady Eddie. So I would say
that's
your
one of those
grit.
things where it's like, I don't know, we balance each other out so well there because you push us to like do really big hard things,
and then you put the team on your back and finish
then,
it because
then
you just have
I'll
the
help us
engine that
pace it
chugs.
out.
Yeah.
But it's like I wouldn't push us to do things the same way that you do. So I think we're a nice complement to each other there. Yeah.
I think the third, and this is probably selfish just because I also like this about like I also have this interest, and so it's just nice that we both are this way. you're just really, really big on learning and growing in general. And so whether it's in pushing our videos and our podcasts every single time you're trying to do something a little bit different or learn a new skill that you can add in, or whether it's pushing your art forward and trying to like practice intentionally on that, or whether it's, like I said, the way that you attack school, or whether it's your spiritual disciplines. And like, you are very, very intentional when you decide, I want to learn and grow in this area. You attack it like it's your job, whether or not it's actually your job. And I just really admire that about your focus on learning and growing.
Well, thanks. That was very nice. I could definitely say the same for you. We like learning together. We will find like online classes and stuff to like watch together because
that's what we like doing. All right, let's do another one.
I can't remember who read them last. We're going too long.
Tell me something you believed as a child that makes you laugh now.
Oh my gosh. I mean.
You believed a lot of things as a child.
I don't know. I feel like I was a doofus as a kid. Okay, for starters, I thought that princels was a word. So I wonder if anybody can guess what princels is. Do you think you would be able to guess it if you didn't already know the story?
Okay. Yeah, I've heard the story so much that I know. But
so my like best childhood friend, Ben, we grew up in the same neighborhood, still friends to this day. And, you know, hung out all the time. And we were like maybe, I don't know, 8-ish years old.
To hear your dad tell the story, you were 15, but
I don't think I was 15 with this. I hope I wasn't. I don't know. I might have been. But anyways, and now this is just going to bring everything full circle. People are going to be like, yeah, we understand why the teacher thought you were a Dumbo. So I'm talking to Ben and I'm like super hungry. Let's have some pretzels. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, pretzels, you know, we had them the other day. Like, why are you acting like such a weirdo? I mean, like, they're down in your pantry. Like, why are you acting like you've never heard of these? And he's like, I do not know what you're talking about right now.
Never heard of a pretzel.
Let's walk down to the pantry and you show me what you're talking about because I have never heard the word that you're saying. And so we go down there and I point to a bag of pretzels and he was like, those are pretzels. They're not pretzels. And I was like, no, they're definitely pretzels. And he was like, I'm telling you, they're definitely not. And I was like, whatever. If I have called them pretzels forever and my parents would have told me if it was pretzels. So of course he's like, whatever. I mean, go home and ask your parents later, but it's definitely pretzels. So I go home and I ask him and they were like, we thought it was cute that you said that. So we didn't want to correct it. And I was like, stop being cute like 5 years ago. But anyways, so thanks, Ben, for not letting me be 30 and calling them pretzels. I also believed in Santa for like way longer than everybody else.
Way longer than necessary.
Way longer. Like I remember
my friend Justin ruined that when I was like 4 or 5.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I'm not even going to say the age, but I remember everybody talking about it. Like, I mean, obviously everybody knows Santa's not real. And I was like, obviously.
Definitely is.
Right. And then I was in high school and I figured
I learned high school.
I learned about Santa before high school, you guys. But then this happened in high school and I questioned everything. So when I was in high school, I got up Christmas Eve, Christmas morning, whatever, at like 3 a.m. to go to the bathroom. And I got up and then there was a lamp on in the kitchen and there was somebody rummaging around in there.
And it's just your brother.
And I just had like a moment of like, is he real? And then I went in there and it was like my dad or brother eating something in the middle of the night or whatever. But I mean, I had to question, you know, I was like, I mean, I thought I believed those 6th graders when they said that we all know he's not real, but maybe I'm about to find
that's
something
funny.
else
I haven't
out.
heard that story.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm an underdog.
The only thing that comes to mind that I think is funny and worth sharing, I actually don't laugh at it now, which is probably the funnier part of it, which is like when I look back, the amount of delusional self-confidence I've had in multiple areas of my life. And what's funny about it to me is the fact that I actually don't find it all that funny. Like I look back and go like, well, it makes sense to me.
Obviously.
And that, like when I look at it through an objective lens, is like, even funnier. And so whether it was like when I went through my parkour free running phase and I was like jumping off the roof and filming myself breakdancing in the garage.
Yeah, like when Nick and I started dating, he showed me videos of himself breakdancing in his parents' garage. And
it was the lamest thing in the world.
But he was so confident about it that like he convinced me that it was cool too.
You should see if you could find the clip of me doing that and just insert it into this video. It's like the most embarrassing thing ever.
Do you still
I'm sure I've got it somewhere.
You can't get rid of gyms like
can't
that.
get rid of that.
Confidence builders, go back and watch that. It makes me think of what Arrested Development
when
he does the lightsaber videos.
It's exactly like the Arrested Development.
George Michael had never been more embarrassed. Until this part.
Uh-oh, I couldn't find another tape. Steve's more.
But I think about like Evan and I, we used to build ramps in the driveway and jump our mountain bikes off of them. And I thought I was so cool. And then I did get a video camera and I started filming it. I realized I was getting like legit maybe 3 inches of air.
Stuff like that in particular is like so, because it feels so much more hardcore when you're doing it than it looks on video. Yeah, bummer.
But yeah, you know, I thought I was going to be a famous musician and like play and fill stadiums one day. And I truly believed that for a long time.
But it's also interesting because a lot of the things that you did then like have carried over to make you be able to do what you're doing now.
Yeah, sure.
Like, especially, I mean, even just posting, you know, videos on YouTube, like you're going to get like hateful comments.
All
like
the time.
You have to have
Every
big
episode.
shoulders.
Yep.
And I struggle with that, which I think probably like females probably struggle with that a little bit more in general. But I think you are so good at that. And a lot of it is because you got a lot of practice.
I think I got used to people in high school making fun of us and our band.
And you just were like, whatever.
Just like getting used to that early definitely helped prepare me for making YouTube videos now.
Very much a man in the arena type of attitude.
100%.
Like, hey, I'm out here doing music and stuff, and you're over there not doing music, making fun of me. So whatever, I don't care. Yeah.
All right, let's do another one.
What's your favorite meal and why?
My favorite meal? Ooh, the first thing that came to mind, I haven't had this in a long time, but it would be like pinto beans, cornbread, mashed potatoes.
Country classics.
Like country classic with like a side of beef or something.
Side of beef.
You know what I mean?
General beef.
Some sort of beef products. Could be a steak. Could be just a ground beef, you know?
Yeah, Nick had an engineering professor who called
Dr. Damshala.
Yeah, who called meat product.
Meat product. Well,
so
the story is he was trying to get us to, he was trying to convince us to come to his American Society of HVAC Refrigeration Engineers meeting. Very,
very exciting.
Very exciting.
I can see where all the college kids would want to go to that.
And he was trying to entice us to come to his meeting for ASHRAE. And the way that he enticed us was by telling us that there would be some sort of meal with some sort of how you call it roll and some sort of how you call it meat product.
And it worked, I'm sure. I mean,
I did go to that meeting and I did get some meat product.
And we still call it meat product to this day.
Yes, I would say country classics, pinto beans and cornbread.
Okay. That one's a hard one. It totally depends on my mood because sometimes I'm like Chinese food. Sometimes I'm like Mexican food. Sometimes I'm like
yours
pizza.
Has to be Mexican food. You would eat Mexican all the time.
I like it all at different times, but I do love Mexican food mostly because it's just like chips and dip.
Yeah, it's the best.
I just love chips and dip.
It's the best.
Yep. All right, you want to do another one?
All right. Oh, this is great for like normal visioning stuff. What is your ideal romantic vacation?
It's funny, we've kind of talked about this. It changes depending on what season our life is in.
Do you mean season like fall, winter, spring, summer? Like
I mean like chaotic versus
how chaotic our season
kind of
life
like
is.
life is life. It's always chaotic to a certain extent, but like especially when we've been in seasons of like moving and disorganization and I don't know. I really just want to like take the RV somewhere that's like chill and sit around a campfire and like maybe go to some coffee shops, and that's like an ideal vacation. And then other times, like if we're in a calmer
season,
we've got some more stability in our everyday life, then going on like a more adventurous, like, oh hey, let's go to this place and do this big hike, or because I tend to be drawn to the like the big
is
hike things.
I was going to say, I tend to bucket vacations into like adventure vacation or rest, relax, recharge vacation. And I have found both of those types to be romantic, depending on like what we did this year for our anniversary. We did a big hike up to Mount LeConte, and it's like 5.5 miles, basically straight up. It's a very hard hike. And we got up there early. We took camping chairs. We read a book at the top and like made coffee up at the top. We took our AeroPress and like a little burner.
Yeah, it was very fun.
And then we hiked back out. And then later that evening, we cooked steaks at the house. So like that was a adventurous vacation. It wasn't really a vacation because we didn't go anywhere, but that was romantic to me. But then, like you said, going to a cabin or going to like a campground and just basically not going anywhere and just unplugging and hanging out, playing board games, watching movies, reading books, doing campfire stuff. That's also equally romantic.
Yeah. And also, I'm just going to use this like as a shameless plug for like the Vision Retreat type vacations, because I think those are some of the most romantic vacations that we have. Because, I mean, it's just like praying through where do we feel like we have clarity on like what God's calling us to do? Where do we feel like we're uncertain about things? And just talking through all of that, praying through all of that together. Like those vacations are the best. They're so fun.
That brings us kind of to the end of the number of questions we wanted to get through today. If y'all like this, we might do more episodes like this in the future. So definitely leave a comment, let us know. But we hope that you will check out whether it's Best Self or some other company. There's other ones. We can link them down in the description below. Appointed has a deck.
Yeah, I get my planners from them.
Michael
and I think
Hyatt
that's like a new feature
has a couple of decks. So like I love this as just a way to start creating a culture of visioning in the household. And I think it's a really easy sort of like low barrier to entry way to do this. So we use these all the time, and we hope you found this episode helpful and encouraging.